It's day 5 of the month of July in the year 2025. Good afternoon and welcome to Weekend Central. This is the first bulletin for today. It's coming to you live from the news app here at Adesawe Kanda. We're live on Facebook as TV3 Ghana and on DSTV as channel 279. My name is George Queenie.
And I am Judith Brown. Coming up this afternoon. This afternoon, private legal practitioner Alexander Aban has admonished the Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine to focus more on prosecuting accused persons rather than carrying out press engagements while the case is stalled.
And also coming up this afternoon, we take you to the new Chira Chips compound in Doma West District of the Bono region, where health workers are grappling with inadequate logistics.
Welcome once again to the bulletin. We start from here. Patricia Asiedua, also known as Nana Agradaa, is expected to be sentenced to 15 years in prison after being found guilty of defrauding by false pretense and engaging in charlatanic advertisement contrary to the country's criminal code. But as the news sparks intense public debate, one question lingers. What exactly is defrauding by false pretense? And who else could fall foul of this law?
The sentencing is too harsh. Who is going to serve as the content on social media? That's partly been what social media commentary has centered on following the sentencing of Patricia Isidua Isiama on Thursday afternoon. 3 counts involving defrauding by false pretense and charlatanic advertisements means Agradaa will serve 15 years in prison with hard labor, primarily for defrauding by false pretense. But what is the charge about, and who could possibly fall foul of such a law? A person defrauds by false pretense if by means of false pretense or by impersonation that person obtains the consent of another person to part with or transfer the ownership of anything. Simply, he made representation to people for which they believe in its veracity and acted to their detriment, knowing fully well at the time of making this representation that it was not true. By this, an individual who knowingly makes a false representation to another person to their benefit could possibly be caught up with the law. Activist Oliver Baka-Vomawo suggests politicians past and present should be facing similar charges and more for their tune in government. For Ghanaians, their opinions remain mixed on the charges.
Say omwa omumalo aw be woman omajo Ghana card dia unim say banks we.
If you are dealing with licensed financial institutions, you can be rest assured. But when someone sits on TV and asks you to send money with the promise of doubling it, that's a scam. No reasonable person should fall for such schemes.
Nipa no tiona se fe bibi ba na wo akọ okọ a fa so bi eni so ekro no bo.
If someone invites you with the intention of extorting money from you, that's outright thievery, and you must not fall for it. Agradaa is not the only one involved in this kind of business. Pastors who exploit their members by selling oil and handkerchiefs at outrageous prices should also be held accountable under the law.
On suggestions of appeal by lawyers of Agradaa over the severity of the sentencing, Lawyer Hesse says the merit of the argument will determine the success or otherwise.
The sentencing given,
right,
even though the law prescribes that it should be up to 25 years, if it is not commensurate or the balance of it is not served, then the accused person's lawyers could appeal and for the court, the appellate court, to have a review of the sentencing,
right,
to a further sentence that it deems fit.
As the debate rages on, one thing remains certain. The law on defrauding by false pretense is far-reaching, and anyone who falls foul of it could find themselves wanting. And Yunam Halika, TV3 News, Accra.
Well, let's still stay on legal-related matters. As private legal practitioner Alexander Aban has admonished the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, to focus more on prosecuting accused persons rather than carrying out press engagement while the cases stall. The Attorney General has come under fire following what has become routine public updates of the work of the Operation Recover All Loot Oral Team and his office. Lodi Dwasari reports.
Following his appointment as Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Agradaa Ayine has consistently held press briefings to update the nation on the progress of ongoing investigations and how his office intends to prosecute public officials accused of misappropriating public funds. In the past 6 months, the Attorney General has held 3 press conferences detailing alleged misappropriation of public funds by some former officials and has vowed to bring them to justice. So far, a number of cases are being heard at the High Court. For private legal practitioner Alexander Aban, the Attorney General's public communication approach raises concerns about creating undue public expectations.
Speak little, do the work. After all, when a conviction is made, it will not call for your press conference for people to get to know. In fact, journalists themselves would even go to the courts, pick up the information, because if it's newsy, they would definitely pronounce it. If you come and you create the impression that you have ironclad pieces of evidence, then it turns out later that you are now going to have further investigations into the matter. You dampen the spirit of persons who think that there should be some kind of accountability.
However, private legal practitioner Justice Abdullahi disagrees. He commended the Attorney General for the consistent updates, stating that the public deserves to be informed about the progress of such high-profile cases.
Once you inform us that your docket is ready, once you inform us of all the evidence that you've gathered and all the alleged crime that might have been committed, at the point of informing us, you are either placing the docket before court or registering the case, or soon afterwards you do that. That way, it builds further confidence in what he's doing, and that way, it helps to avoid some of these questions and some of the negative narrative that comes along with informing us.
With opinions divided on the Attorney General's communication strategy, Ghanaians will ultimately judge based on the outcomes of prosecutions and the government's promise to safeguard the public purse. Lodi Dwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, President John Dramani Mahama has directed the Inspector General of Police to urgently conclude investigations into electoral violence and ensure that perpetrators are held accountable. Speaking at the close of the post-2024 election evaluation dialogue, he reaffirmed his commitment to peace, democracy and national unity.
The government, in collaboration with the National Peace Council and civil society, has implemented a range of interventions to deepen national consensus, strengthen conflict prevention mechanisms, and foster public trust in the institutions that underpin our democracy, especially those responsible for elections, investigations, and prosecution of electoral offenses. While Ghana once again demonstrated its democratic resilience in the 2024 elections, culminating in a largely peaceful transfer of power, we cannot ignore that the process was marred by isolated acts of violence in some constituencies. Let me use this platform to unequivocally condemn these acts of violence and call for swift accountability for the perpetrators. Expedite investigations into these acts of electoral violence and bring the perpetrators to justice. The Attorney General is also working on a report to be presented to Cabinet for adequate compensation to be paid to victims and relatives of those affected by the violence. Let me take this opportunity to commend the Electoral Commission, our security services, civil society organizations, political parties, and the electorate for their collective role in ensuring that Ghana's democratic credentials remain intact after the 2024 election.
Well, if you just tune in, you're watching Weekend Central here on TV3 with myself and Judith Brown. In more news this afternoon, a professor of finance at the University of Ghana, Professor Godfred Bokpin, has advised against establishing a special organization with the status of an authority to implement the 24-hour economy policy launched by government. He contended that doing so will be costly for the country. Take a listen to the professor.
The cost buildup, administrative cost buildup, that the previous administration used in implementing some of these programs, huge. At the end of the day, the recruitment will be party lines and all of that. We don't need to create it. For instance, if Ghana Police Service, with all due respect, tells me that they are now creating a unit for 24-hour economy, I'm asking myself, it should be a mindset.
Which they have, actually.
Okay, it should be a mindset. I don't know what the strategy they want to implement. In fact, even those who will do the first shift and will go and sleep need protection as much as those who go for the third shift. It's a mindset. We have to revolutionize our mindset. And that is why you see that the Ghana Beyond Aid, apart from the hardcore issues and the rest of them, there is the issue about the mindset, the soft skills. I see that also in this program when they talk about, is it Make 24, Grow 24, Show 24, Grow 24, and all of that. There's the mobilization, mindset shift, and all of that. So I may work for the first shift, but I should work with that mindset. I should work with that same drive and all of that. Look, you check Ghana, the National Health Insurance Authority, right? From the time it was set up to implement this, to date, almost 44% of the total allocation to them now goes to administrative. How do you pay claims promptly? Check Cocoa Board and the rest, and check other countries like Cote d'Ivoire and the rest of them. It is possible that now Cocoa Board may have more V8 than cocoa beans. Okay, and all of that. So we should be looking at the cost of implementing our development policies and the rest of them so that we don't burden the taxpayer on us and the rest of them. Then again, the other bit is all of this is not just to run down the program, but I believe.
Well, we'll stay on the key points because political scientist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Joshua Zato, says if there's no demand, companies will not be able to run the 24-hour economy. He noted that if there's no demand, companies will not be available to run the 24-hour economy. Speaking on key points, he added that the policy is not nationalistic in nature and hence risk being jettisoned when there's a change in government.
But the most important thing I want to talk about this one was the question about rebates, the question about incentives. Throughout the campaign, the most important aspect of this policy was that it was going to solve unemployment. One job, 3 shifts. That was the argument that was put out there. Of course, sometimes when you are campaigning, you campaign in poetry, but you govern in prose. So it was easier to frame it like that. So a lot of young people are asking for jobs, and they are hoping that with this new policy is going to happen. I mean, it's exciting to see that one job, 3 different people get a job. You and I, Prof, we start work at 7 a.m., right? And we close at almost 8:39 p.m. at Legon, right? So I was asked the idea, how are you going to have this? And now we have the details here. That is going to be based on what incentives. You are going to incentivize a company and give the company money. And then when the company gets the money, then the company says, okay, because of this incentives, I'm going to run another shift. So for instance, the company was doing regular business, closes at 4:30. They don't get anything. Now, if they add one more shift, that means they are now closing around 8 p.m., 9 p.m. What will happen? You give them 25% rebate on corporate tax. If they go 3 shifts, you give them 50% on corporate tax. The understanding is that these rebates, this help will make companies what? Add more shifts and recruit more people and then increase employment. That is the fundamental idea. So the argument then seems to be that the reason why companies and businesses are not doing 3 or 4 shifts in employment is because they don't have incentives. That is that argument becomes wrong. Because if you don't want to look at it, let's peel back. Mr. Matthew, you run a law firm. Are you running 24 hours? And is it because of lack of incentives? I don't think so.
We are 24 hours, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because you close and you go home. But if the demand arises, if somebody calls you, a client calls you at midnight, you run and go.
Yeah.
But
and now a diplomatic spat has emerged between U.S. Senator Jim Rich and Ghana's Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa over Ghana's debt obligations and foreign policy choices, igniting broader discussions about sovereignty, repatriations, and global power dynamics. In a sharply worded statement on social media, Senator Rich criticized Ghana's foreign minister for traveling to Washington, D.C. instead of focusing on what's described as unmet financial commitment to American businesses and taxpayers. The Idaho senator's comment has drawn swift backlash from Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Ablakwa condemned Rich's remarks as extremely offensive and accused the senator of hypocrisy and neo-colonial overreach. This is very rich coming from someone who refuses to engage in the same advocacy for the payment of repatriations by the U.S. for its despicable and condemnable role in slavery, Ablakwa said in a pointed rebuttal. He further emphasized Ghana's sovereignty, invoking the legacy of Ghana's founding leader, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and dismissing Rich's criticism and as out of place. You will not be allowed to dictate to a sovereign country on how we conduct our foreign policy. This is Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana, the first African nation to defeat colonialism and imperialism, Ablakwa declared. Responding to the issue of debt, Ablakwa downplayed the U.S. concern, stating that Ghana remains committed to honoring its financial obligations, albeit on its own terms. Well, let's do so on this very topic and engage Professor Lord Mauko Yevuga. He is a political economist and international relations expert and lectures at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA. And Prof, what are the diplomatic implications of Senator Rich's comments for U.S.-Ghana relations?
Well, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Can you hear me loud and clear?
I can hear you, Prof. You can just go on. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, sure. So the comments by the senator were rather unfortunate. So he has, I don't think it's a big deal. The foreign minister has responded, but I think the senator didn't do well. Ghana has a very good diplomatic relations with the United States, and there are various official channels that you can communicate to the Ghanaian officials or government officials about issues related to debt. So you don't go to social media and post. And you occupy a very important committee. You are a member of committee of Senate on foreign relations. Therefore, anything you say carries a lot of weight diplomatically. So I thought that his choice of platform and the words he used were rather unfortunate. I think it will be tidied up. The relevant authorities will tidy it up. I don't think he wants to suggest that just because Ghana owes America, the foreign minister cannot travel for other official engagement. In any case, every country owes. America owes China. It owes other countries. But America doesn't stop its officials from traveling to those countries that they own. So I agree with Okudzeto that this is like a patronage. You have to patronize us. They are trying to belittle us as if you're not a sovereign country. You cannot dictate to us where we choose to go just because we owe you money. So that, for me, that's the issue. On the other hand, it's also a call to Ghana to honor its obligations. I know that the Mahama government is a new government, so they have to study some of these things before they begin to act. Notwithstanding, we need to be seen to be also paying our bills and paying our debts and come to arrangement so that we don't have these spectacles repeating themselves and bringing a lot of embarrassment to the country. So I think both sides have issues that can be ironed out diplomatically. That's my view.
Prof, how should Ghana balance debt obligations to Western and Eastern creditors?
Pardon me?
How can Ghana balance debt obligations to Western and Eastern creditors?
Well, so the senator's concern was that we owe America, yet we are paying so much money to China. So it means that Ghana has to be even-handed. If you owe multiple countries, the West and the East, then you have to find a way to make sure that you are not paying only one. Because there are geopolitical and geostrategic considerations when it comes to some of these things. So the West doesn't want their money, so-called money or so to speak, to be going to China. And that is where the concern of the senator is coming from. So Ghana as a country has to prioritize and make sure that, even if you are not going to pay all of them, all the money you owe them, you have to be seen to making commitments to all your creditors. I think that's the way to go. You can't pay some and not pay the others, particularly when everybody thinks that China is using these debt issues to literally have a leverage over countries in Africa. So that is something Ghana has to watch. We shouldn't be seen to be caught up in this superpower rivalry between the West and the East. So we need to do it in a proper way.
Okay. Prof, do you agree with some suggestions that comments like Ablakwe's reflect a broader shift in African foreign policy posture?
Well, to the extent, yes. I mean, for a long time, we've had this so-called Washington consensus, where we've relied on aid and policy conditions coming from the West, particularly from the IMF and the World Bank, and that has not really worked. So, of course, there are debates as to whether that approach is sustainable. I mean, remember in 2018, President Akufo-Addo went to the UN General Assembly to signal Ghana and Africa's decision to begin to look east for alternatives to the Washington consensus. So there's a gradual shift. Why not? If there's an alternative to the Western consensus that we've been on since the 1980s, we have every right as a sovereign state to explore that. That is not to say that we will not do business in the West anymore, but you are just also looking at the alternatives because we also want to take advantage of what is available. So yes, Ghana, like any African country or any other global sub-country, may become more interested in exploring alternatives to the Western approach to development. But that is not to say that we are not going to do business entirely with the West. We are just going to be strategic in our dealings with them in the East as well.
Could this tension impact future U.S. investment or aid to Ghana?
Can you repeat that, please?
I mean, can this very tension impact future U.S. investment or aid to Ghana?
No, I don't think so. I think this is just... I don't think the senator was speaking on behalf of the American government. Of course, it's on the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, so his views will matter. But Ghana has a good bilateral relations with America as two sovereign states. So there are proper official channels. And once Ghana is indicating its willingness to honor its debt obligations, I don't think this incident will go far. I mean, we have a historic relations with America dating way back. Okojeto raised very legitimate issues about reparations. That's a different issue altogether. In my view, we shouldn't have brought that up. That's a different story altogether. So, but be as it may, he was responding directly to what the senator did, which in my view was an overreach. But I don't think this incident between the two individuals can influence drastically our foreign relations with America at this point.
Prof, thank you so much for your rich and enlightened submission on this very matter. Professor Mauko Yavuga is a political economist and international relations expert, and he lectures at GamePa. And that was his take on a diplomacy spat that has emerged between U.S. Senator Jim Rich and Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Judith.
Absolutely. In other news, the Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, has directed the National Inspectorate Board to strictly enforce the ban on mobile phone usage in schools. He is also calling for tighter regulations to curb the growing trend of students carrying weapons to schools. Addressing the inauguration of governing boards for the National Inspectorate Board and the National Curriculum and Assessment Board in Accra, the minister described the issue of students carrying weapons as a growing threat to safety in schools.
Talk about a student having access to a phone in an examination room. It's a no, no, no. And probably we have to even review examiners and supervisors' use of phones, because in some instances, it may be some of them who are aiding the cheating. And therefore, we have to limit who can carry a phone to an exam room. And the relationship between the user of that phone, ordinarily I would have just pronounced a ban. But if the examiner haven't arrived with questions early, somebody must call to say that we don't have the exam questions yet. And if they have to finish and report back, but we expect strict compliance and enforceability on that.
Well, Dr. Peter Ante is Executive Director for the Institute of Education Studies. He's joining us for more insights on this. Doctor, good afternoon to you. Now, how can Ghana balance stringent security measures with fostering a supportive school environment?
Right. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. I think that if you listen to the minister carefully, he was talking about banning in the period of examination, banning phones in the period of examination, that you are not allowed to use phones, mobile phones, anywhere during an examination period. Of course, the GES have a code of conduct that also ensures that phones are banned in our schools. I think what the current system is trying to do is that they are trying to provide these digital devices themselves, so that the kind of restrictions and other things that they don't want the students to use their phones for can be instituted in the digital device that the government is providing for the students. I have spoken to those some people who are in charge of the ICT policy that was almost finalized under the previous government. I don't know the current state of it now, but the idea is that if a student possesses a phone, it becomes very difficult for the system to restrict its usage. But when the government gives the digital device to the student, the restrictive measures can be implemented on the machine, on the system that have been given to the students. So I think this is not a complete ban of use of digital devices in our campuses. It's more about who is bringing the digital devices. If it is from the government, it is allowed. If it's the student who is going to use it, then it is prohibited. And I think that's a conversation that we need to have so that we'll be able to really settle this issue. But in this time and age, I must say that it is important that our students are exposed to a varied range of digital technology so that they will keep abreast. I mean, they will keep up with the changing dynamics in our in the global 21st century education classroom.
Right. Now, what role should communities play in preventing external violence from affecting schools?
One of the things that we have to understand is the structure of our educational system, and where parents plays a critical role, where the community opinion leaders plays a critical role within the school system. So the school is situated within a community, and it is important that every single individual within the community sees himself or herself as a stakeholder in the management of the school. If you do it that way, it means that when a student does something wrong, nobody will come outside of the school to come and then support the misbehavior of the student. The community just has a check to students' behavior, and that would enable teachers also instill discipline as and when they have to. So it's a collective thing that I think the community would have to do, opinion leaders in the community, to support the school system in dealing with the issue of indiscipline.
Right, and are punitive measures enough, or should mental health support be prioritized as well?
I think we do a combination of the two. I personally am not a fan of the corporal punishment, and I've said it a lot of times that in this time and age, there are so many things that you can do to a child who is misbehaving that would have a lot of impact on him, more than even using the cane to cane him. And it's a matter of continuous training of our teachers for them to resort to some of these psychological issues, psychological techniques in dealing with misbehavior in the classroom, rather than falling so much on the cane. There should be a balance where when the child is going astray, you can find ways and means to maybe go strictly according to the planned process of instilling corporal punishment. But for me, the psychological measures should be more in trying to correct our students when they go astray.
Right, many thanks for your time. Dr. Peter Patianti is the Executive Director for the Institute of Education Studies. He has been giving us all the insights as regards to the Minister of Education's latest issue on the use of mobile phones as well as weapons in schools, especially in our secondary schools. It's taking us on our very first break. When we're back, we have more news for you. Do stick with us right here on Weekend Central.
Still on the
Welcome back from the break. This is Weekend Central, the first bulletin for today. And now rural health workers, especially nurses and midwives, face a multitude of challenges, including limited resources, difficult working conditions that affect their ability to provide adequate care. Despite these glaring challenges, midwives and nurses continue to deliver quality health care services. My colleague Claude Kumi Abisa visited the new Chira Chips compound in Doma West District of the Bono region and has filed this report.
In 2014 to render healthcare services to over 20 communities in the Doma West District, the new Chira Chips compound is grappling with numerous challenges, including lack of space, poor telecommunication network connectivity, and dilapidated structures, among others. The facility has only 2 rooms, which are used to provide all services. Deliveries and detentions are carried out in the same room, raising privacy concerns. For Augustine Emmanuel Donko, who was posted to the facility 9 years ago, working here has not been easy.
To be honest with you, our work goes with privacy issues. In this case, we have only small room that we share with us, or we provide a lot of services. You'll be doing consulting, somebody will be detained here. The same time, you'll be doing wound dressing in the same room. Understand? So in this case, a lot of people are not coming because of this issue. The person will pick a motorbike and go to a very far distance. Normally, first week, a day, we can treat like not less than 20, 30, but now it has declined up to 10, sometimes even 5.
There is also no telecommunication network at the facility, which is affecting vetting of claims.
We don't have a network here. Vetting claim to see whether the claim or the NHI is active or inactive. We can't. So sometimes we need to gather all our NHI's card or the claims to town and vet it before we bring it to the facility.
I met Sarah Eyusiwa, a midwife at the new Chira Chips compound. She has been working at the facility for 2 years. According to Sarah, the challenges are already overwhelming.
We have mosquito nets and washing careers and other things which are on the floor, which are not supposed to be so. I'm not able to provide what I'm supposed to do, the quality services for them, because we have less items which will aid me to provide more of the service to them, which is making my work very tedious. And also most of the women are moving to the other facilities, I'll be here idle, which is preventing me from improving my skills.
This wooden structure you see behind me is a toilet facility that serves the staff of New Chira Chips compound. At the same time, it also serves the entire community. As we speak, the toilet is in a deplorable state and it needs urgent attention to prevent any future unforeseen occurrence.
Coupled with the numerous challenges is the poor state of the roads, making access to the facility difficult, especially during the rainy season.
We are pleading on government agency, opinion leaders, churches, any person, NGOs to come into our aid, to come and assist us, and we will be mad grateful.
The situation here at the new Chira Chips compound in the Doma West District is a dire one. The staff here are doing their best, but the lack of logistics is impeding them. They are therefore making a passionate appeal to government, benevolent organizations to come to their aid to ameliorate the situation. Claude Kumi Abisa, TV3 News, New Chira.
Interesting report there by Claude Kumi Ebisa. We're going to stay on health because hypertension, also known as high blood pressure, once considered a disease of the elderly, is now increasingly affecting young people. While this trend is alarming, and experts warn that if left unchecked, it could have severe consequences for the country's health and economy. Sarah Penkro has more in this report.
Hypertension or high blood pressure remains a significant public health concern in Ghana, affecting roughly 1 in 4 adults. Sedentary lifestyles, poor diets, and increasing stress levels are all contributing factors. Studies suggest with less than 35% of individuals aware of their condition, only about 22% of those diagnosed are receiving treatment. Gina is in her 30s and has been diagnosed with high blood pressure, but she has her own plans for treatment.
Somewhere around last year, November. One time I was there in the afternoon, I started feeling severe pain all over my body. Very severe headache. I realized I was getting weak. I started going to the pharmacy to check. Every time I check, it gets very high. Sometimes when I go, it's medium or it's low. I did that for almost 2 years and I realized it's not stable at all. So I had to go to the doctor. So he told me that he would like to put me on drug, and I said no. And that I would want to manage it myself because I wouldn't want to start dragging myself from now. Once it started becoming severe, I take anything like a paracetamol, I get okay. So there are other herbs I've been taught to be doing some minor teas I do in the morning and maybe before bed too. So
Gina tells me that knowing her triggers is her way of taking control of her health.
Checking it all the time, realizing it was not becoming stable worries me a lot. So for about 3, 4, 5 months now, I don't go checking. I don't want to put myself on the beat of a cold, so I stopped the checking and then I'm managing it, I'm okay. Even yesterday, I had some kind of headache, so I had to take some paracetamol and then go to bed and sleep early, and that was all. I'm getting used to the fact that it's becoming high and you have to go on the drug end. I don't want to continue with the thought, go and take the medicine.
It is a growing concern quietly creeping into the lives of Ghana's youth. Interestingly, many are unaware of their blood pressure status.
To check for BP, no. Why? Because I presume I'm okay. Almost 15 years. I check in hospital.
They're 5 years.
Others, though aware of the consequences, remain unbothered.
I think the last time I checked was 2021 and it was normal, but ever since then I've not been bothered to check my BP again.
That was last year, April. It was okay. Yeah, because my boss was admitted at UG Hospital, so I took opportunity to also check it.
The danger is that uncontrolled hypertension can lead to serious health complications, including heart disease, stroke, kidney damage, and death.
Among the youth, it is common, especially in the 30s, going to 40s, very common in that age group. And it's particularly more common in men. For everybody, a regular check is helpful, just to be sure that the BP is not going up, because it doesn't give any sign. But if you can live a healthy life, take a lot of fruits, rest when you should, take a lot of fluids, avoid abuse of pain medications, then your risk of getting hypertension is very low.
The economic burden of hypertension is also significant, which can undermine the country's development.
When you develop hypertension in pregnancy, you may be put on medication in the course of that pregnancy. That type of hypertension, when you give birth, can disappear completely. But you need to check, especially after 6 weeks of giving birth. Other than that, all other forms of hypertension, unless it is a secondary hypertension, the hypertension is due to some condition, and we have treated that condition, the hypertension has disappeared. But essential hypertension, which is that there is no known condition or cause to the hypertension, you will most likely be on medication for life. No one should ever stop a hypertension medicines without consultation. Even when you feel, some people look at how they feel a day, that when I take the medication, it's even making me worse. When I don't take it, I'm fine. I checked 2 days without taking the medication and it was low, and therefore I stopped. No, that is dangerous.
Gina is just one of the country's many vibrant youth battling hypertension. It is very important to check your BP regularly and note your status. Sarah Apenkro, TV3 News, Accra.
Well, there are more tips to learn from Sarah Pranko's story on hypertension. Well, let's still stay on health, as the number of people living with HIV/AIDS in Ghana has surged to 334,000. This has raised concerns among stakeholders, with growing calls for increased efforts to tackle the surge of the disease.
According to data from the national and subnational HIV and AIDS estimates and projections, Ghana recorded 15,290 new HIV infections, with 12,614 AIDS-related deaths in 2024. Statistics reveal that women are disproportionately affected, while many children have contracted the virus through mother-to-child transmission. Speaking during the nationwide outreach, First Lady Lordina Mahama urged young people to prioritize regular testing and make informed health choices.
Many young people today are falling ill, sometimes due to a lack of access to the right information, services, or support they need. That is why today's health screening is very important. It provides everyone with the opportunity to get tested and take the necessary steps to maintain their health. The Ghana Medical Trust Fund, also known as Mahama Care, when this fund is fully operational, it will bring relief to many people suffering from non-communicable diseases.
The Director of Technical Services at the Ghana AIDS Commission, Dr. Fred Nanapoku, expressed concern over the sharp decline in condom use. He warned that this trend continues to fuel the spread of the virus, especially among the youth.
Condom is a very important commodity, but it's unfortunate that the demographic health survey shows that whilst risky behaviors are increasing among the population, especially among the youth, condom use has come down so much. So it means that new infections are still going to be high. Education on condoms, preventive measures, and remaining healthy is very critical for the Ghanaian population.
Deputy Chief of Staff Nana Oyebampo Ado emphasized the urgent need for stronger national commitment to prevention and treatment programs.
We are grateful to Her Excellency the First Lady for this noble initiative. Many of us women, many of us professionals and caregivers, for us in the markets, for our kayaye, this is a gift. It removes the barriers of access to medical screening, the cost, and the time.
The 95-95-95 target set by the UN-AIDS aims to ensure that 95% of people living with HIV know their status. 95% of those diagnosed are on antiretroviral therapy, and 95% of those on ART have viral suppression by 2025. According to the 2024 National HIV projections, in Ghana currently only 68% know their HIV status. 69% of persons diagnosed are on ART, and 90% of persons on ART haven't achieved viral suppression.
Well, let's know what you make of the surge of HIV cases in Ghana and the stories that have aired so far. We are active on Facebook. Get interactive with us. It's Steve with you, Ghana. We'll surely read your comments and share them to the rest of the world. We're going for a quick commercial break. We're back with more news. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You're still watching Weekend Central. Now, Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, says the ministry is working on measures to tackle illegal installation of electricity meters. Answering questions in Parliament on Wednesday, June 2, he disclosed plans to lay a legislative instrument, LI, before Parliament to introduce severe penalties for persons engaged in illegal installation of ECG meters.
Measures being adopted to mitigate illegal electricity connection and metering challenges to improve revenue efficiency. We've embarked on a loss reduction program, which is part of the reforms being undertaken by ECG, among others, to reduce commercial losses, improve energy accounting through the installation of meter management systems, compliant repayment meters, specifically replacement of overaged and obsolete meters, replacement of faulty meters, and installation of new service connections. Under the loss reduction program, about 1 million meters have been installed already in order to ensure that we have accurate billing. These are smart meters that provide on-the-spot information so that we can reduce the losses the Honourable Member is talking about. We are also rerouting of concealed service tails and deployment of enhanced meter management systems. A total of about 1.2 million meter management systems have so far been installed as at the end of April 2025. In addition to this, ECG plans to install additional 2 million meters between 2025 and 2029 to be complemented by another 1 million which is being rolled out in collaboration with the World Bank. The use of smart meters by itself, Mr. Speaker, does not automatically lead to reduction in losses. And so smart meters sometimes have challenges, and the human element is also being improved. We've given ECG some KPIs. Cabinet has also approved that all state institutions be put on prepayment meters or agree with ECG for a monthly billing and payment system. Only 4 institutions, the presidency, police service, the military, and education and hospitals, have been put in a different category. Even with them, they are supposed to pay for the light bills, except that they won't be on prepayment meters. ECG has also constituted some task force, and they are making progress. Because recently, you would have heard that some estates have been busted, and we are arranging them before court. I'm happy to announce that there have been some significant improvement in the revenue collection following these measures that we've put in place. Mr. Speaker, with these measures, we are confident that going forward, we would have improvement in revenue collection, reduce losses, and bring about overall efficiency as far as the electricity sector is concerned.
Well, let's still stay in the House as members of Parliament have underscored the need to preserve Ghana's indigenous languages from going extinct, urging parents to use their native dialects to raise children. This follows a statement by the Ahanta West MP, who is championing the revival of the Ahanta language in ensuring that it is taught and studied as well as examined in schools in the Ahanta areas. This is a report from my colleague Christian Yali.
Ghana has over 40 indigenous languages that are at risk of extinction because they are not properly documented or taught in schools. One of such is the Ahanta language spoken by the people of Ahanta in the Western region. The Member of Parliament, Mavis Kukua Bisiu, in a statement to Parliament, noted that she is determined to get the language taught and recognized.
I'm an example of the dangers of that lie ahead. If we fall as a country to document and teach our indigenous languages. Despite being born to an Ahanta father and mother, I did not have the benefit of being taught the language at home or in school. As a member of Parliament of Ahanta West, I am determined as one of my legacies to change this.
Already, she has engaged the Ghana Education Service and other relevant agencies as well as the University of Education Winneba on how this dream can be achieved.
I respectfully call all the Honourable House to support the following recommendations. The Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service officially recognize Ainda as a Ghanaian language of study in Ahanta West schools. The funding and technical support to be made available for the expansion and mainstreaming of the ongoing pilot program. That the National Council of Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, collaborate with the Ahanta Bible Project to develop standardized and examinable materials for the Ainda language.
Members of Parliament on both sides, while supporting a statement, acknowledged the importance of safeguarding local dialect to raise children.
It is about time that we look at the possibility of using our local language to educate, to give us a lot of wisdom and understanding in whatever we pursue.
I mean, if you take a place like Agradaa and Sekendi, even in Amanfo, my own area, which is a typical Ahanta migrant there, the Ahanta language is gone, the Hinda is gone. If you take parts of Kwesimintim, they do well a little bit. If you take part of Ahanta West like Aponwai, Biahon, Agona, Kwanta, Disco, and the rest, they are doing well. But the main cities like Shama, Sekendi, Iskado, Agradaa, Kasarodo, and Naji, these areas, we have virtually lost the language being spoken in these areas. And I believe that the launch and the reintroduction of the language back into the system will do a bit of service for our people.
If I can stand here and speak Ahanta, which is also my language, and I see that the Ahanta language is disappearing, that it would be very important, and it will also empower the girls or the children in Ahanta land so that they would also know that we have people in this house who are speaking our language.
Students and pupils in the constituency have welcomed the initiative.
When you use a child's mother language to teach him or her, he or she understands it better, rather than using a foreign language. And also, it helps us to be identified as Ahantes.
Currently, the project is being piloted in selected schools across the constituency, spearheaded by the Education Directorate.
We have been able to train 20 teachers already, and those 20 teachers we have trained, they have started piloting the Ahanta language in the schools. So the Ghana Education Service is ever ready to help Madam to be able to achieve this very project. Though it is very tough, but it is very doable.
Christian Yali, TV3 News, Parliament.
Now, following widespread complaints about the poor quality and insufficient portions of meals served to pupils under the school feeding program, the Secretariat has ramped up monitoring efforts to assess the situation firsthand in selected beneficiary schools. The move comes as authorities vow to hold underperforming caterers accountable.
Led by the National Coordinator of the Ghana School Feeding Program Secretariat, Hajia Fatih, alongside regional coordinators, the team has been going on surprise visits to schools across the country. The inspections aim to assess caterers' compliance with meal standards and ensure pupils receive nutritious and sufficient food.
It used to be 1 cedi 50 pesos, and now if it is 2 cedis, we expect that they can do better. In some of the places, I think we got it right, because the quality of the food actually was nice, the quantity was okay. In some places too, the food was nice, but the quantity was not up to whatever we expected to have seen. So I believe going forward, once they know we can pay them visits of this nature, they will set up and know that we are not here to joke.
At Edrase Cheduma say, pupils in most beneficiary schools have yet to receive meals since the beginning of the term due to a disagreement among caterers under the program. Headmaster of Edra Anglican Primary B confirmed that the delay is negatively impacting school enrollment.
I remember when feeding program was going on, we had a large enrollment. But this term, when we came, because no feeding program, some of the children stopped coming to school. So I can say the feeding program helps the children to come to school always.
Following a meeting between the caterers and the national coordinator, the issues have been resolved.
Once we have reached an amicable solution to whatever the misunderstanding was about, I think they are good to go. God willing, Monday, I believe any caterer who have been allocated a slot should be able to start. Because 90% of the schools across the country are actually cooking.
Regarding concerns of who gets the contracts, the national coordinator emphasized that only competent caterers will be retained to safeguard the program's integrity.
The main issue is to get people who are capable and responsible enough to be able to provide the service. It's not the matter of just giving it to anybody at all to please the person. Give it to someone who can actually provide the service so that the children will not have to go hungry. They have to be sure that they can provide nutritious meal. It should be hot. At least the quantity should be appreciable.
The Secretariat has pledged to expand monitoring efforts nationwide with stricter penalties for non-compliant caterers.
Judith, hopefully the new outlook of school feeding drives more students to the classrooms.
Very true, because if you go to the rural areas, most of them seem dull in class just because they don't have enough food to eat. And so it's very important that they ramp up efforts to make sure the food is more quality for these students. That's how we end the bulletin. My name is Judith Brown. I've been doing this with...
My name is Josh Quinn. In a world where you can be anything, just be kind. It costs nothing to be kind. Thanks for watching. It's always a pleasure coming.